Hello and welcome. My name is Damali. I'm the founder and the lead counselor here at Forerunner Counseling. And I'm thankful that you're here. I'm thankful that you have tuned in and you have joined me in this video. I just wanted to briefly talk about how, if we're not careful, the political climate can really ruin our relationships. I don't know about you, but I don't know if you remember in 2020, even as I work with different couples, I could see the struggles some people were experiencing, not only with their spouses, but sometimes with their in-laws, sometimes with their siblings. And remember how even the Black Lives Matter came up, and then I know people who really lost really good relationships because of that political climate that we're living in. And as we can see, it's happening again, almost like we don't want to, I hope we don't have to repeat 2020 or the political version of it, but I don't see how it's not going to be. So how do you safeguard your relationships from the fallout that may potentially happen because of politics? And this is something that I would encourage you to be intentional about, especially that once you realize that you're not in agreement with a person, maybe that's your spouse, maybe that's your kids, maybe that's your boss, your relative. I know it's very difficult, but if there is a way for you to not judge them because of what they believe, that can go a very, very long way, right? And now, for me personally, I come from a culture that is very, I mean, most of us as Africans, I think our way of thinking is very culturally set until we travel outside of our countries and we start to be exposed to different perspectives and different beliefs and different lifestyles, and we become more open-minded. And as we even realize that when we try to interact with our fellow family members or friends or relatives who are still in the continent or in our countries, home countries, we find that it's a struggle to many unless you really have intentionally put skills in your relationships or in your life, personal development, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, therapy, to really know how to interact with people who may not share the same beliefs or values that you may have. I think one of the advantages we have here in America is that even if you don't agree with someone to some degree, at least that's how it used to be, that you are forced to learn to interact with them, even if you don't agree with them, because we have people from different ethnicities, different cultures, different backgrounds, different countries, different spiritual, religious beliefs, all that stuff. So if you're so used to insist that it's your belief that is going to trump somebody else's belief system, I think that becomes like a very hard, it's very difficult. And to learn to interact with people without judging them, without criticizing them, without hating them, without resenting them, it takes a lot of intentionality. You know, as I work with couples, especially during 2020, the times with the vaccine, the times with politics, I literally saw people lose relationships. I personally did not lose relationship because of those things, because I'm grateful that at least I have skills to know how to navigate those differences. But many people don't have those skills. But don't take it for granted to assume that just because you love someone, you should have the same political beliefs or views, because that's not the case. And people change, you know, people really actually change, that their political beliefs can actually change overnight. A person may have been a Democrat before and then they become conservative. A person may have been conservative and then become Democrat. A person may just throw politics all the way out of the window, even in religious beliefs, you know. And I think even as Christians, we really have to be very sensitive to other people. I'm not coming from a place of like you're just tolerating people's you're coming from a place of tolerating what you don't agree with. What are you gonna do, right? If you do not agree with someone's choices, does that give you a right to just like torture them or just make their lives miserable off the planet? Like the planet is yours, you know? That's not realistic either. So we really need to step up our skills in relationships and conflict resolution to do better. Now, in dialectical behavior therapy, there is a skill called I think it's also called dialectics, right? The concept of two opposing ideas can be true at the same time. I've had people struggle to comprehend that concept of something has to be wrong. It cannot be true. That especially when I work with couples and one person is like basically coming from a place of like the other one has to change. There is no way this relationship is gonna do better unless the other person changes because they have already decided that the other judge and the other person is wrong. And when you make a judgment over someone, you have already basically condemned them because they can't come out of it. So if you come from a place of, if you're a Democrat and you're judging a Republican, or a Republican judging a Democrat, when you make a judgment over someone, this is what it at least feels or looks like. When you look into the regular legal courtroom, right? When they are trying a case, you usually have like a defender and a prosecutor. You have the whole team, the jury, you have evidence, you have witnesses to back that evidence and all that good stuff. So by the time the judge gives the verdict, all of that process has taken place. It's not that the judge is just sitting out there like, I know better than all of you, so I'm going to make a decision that this is right. They get the evidence of that case, and based upon that evidence, the judge and the jury decides who is guilty and who is innocent, right? So when you reluctantly judge someone because of what their political beliefs are, you're making a judgment based upon what you're seeing on the outside, but you don't know what's in the person's heart. So all of us have different beliefs, all of us have different experiences. You don't know what that makes the person believe what they believe, to be honest with you. And even in the faith realms, even if we can all be, let's say, Christians, right? Everyone's journey as a Christian is going to be different based upon their experiences. There are people who have been Christians for like 10 years, and there are people who have just been Christians for like 2 days. You cannot assume that they should be what you know because that's not their experience yet. So learning to be sensitive to the things that you don't agree with, because at the end of the day, it's your heart that ends up being bitter. You're the one that ends up being angry. You're the one who ends up being resentful. And when you're living in that state of being, you're not okay, right? You're not okay because you're fixating your mind on the fact that those people have to change so that my life can be easier, so that my life can go back to normal. In other words, you want them off the planet. I think there's a scripture, it says that to hate is to murder. We may not get a gunshot and kill somebody, but the fact that we have hatred in our hearts towards other people, we've already killed them with our beliefs or with our minds. We already basically destroyed them. So my encouragement to you, and I know some of you have probably experienced the loss of relationships. You have experienced bitterness because of you can't believe what that person believes politically or spiritually. You cannot believe it. There is so much divide. I mean, when you think about the planet that we're living on, there are so many wars on the planet right now. There are so many disagreements. All of us at one point were going to die, and the planet is still going to be here. So when you think of the bigger picture, what type of relationships do you want to have? And I think it's also fair to say that if you don't feel like the relationships you may have right now, you're reevaluating whether you should be in those relationships because of the political divides, that's very fair. You rather at least walk away knowing that you cannot be in this relationship than to break up in such a way that there is so much water under the bridge, right? And so it's very difficult, but my encouragement to you is that it doesn't have to be bad. You could fall back, you could avoid topics. You can realize that, okay, we don't agree on Black Lives Matter. We don't agree on the wars that are going on. We don't agree on Democrat, Republican. Can we respect ourselves enough to not talk about those topics when we're in each other's presence because we realize that it's not going to be productive in any way? And some of you may say, but that's avoiding the topic. But at the end of the day, if your intention is to convince the other one to agree with what you believe, how far is that going to go? That's why you're going to lose that relationship. At least you can give everyone space to process things the way they need to process it, because to some, this is very, very highly triggering space, especially when you think about the topics that are in question, right? Like abortion, fertility, wars, the way we live. All those things have an impact on people's everyday living, right? Lifestyles. So you're not just going to say that you're going to put your head in the sun and everything will be good, but pick your battles. If you're married to someone for over 20 years, are you really going to let the political climate change that? Because this political uh, climate, they keep evolving, they keep changing. You've been together for over 10, 20 years, and the people that you're fighting about can only be in office for, let's say, 4 years or whatever, how long they can that be. Is it really worth your relationship being lost? So maybe you don't know how to do it. I can invite you you can schedule an appointment with me, and I'll help you to navigate that, because I think at the core of this, if your relationship can be ruined because of political beliefs, you have to ask yourself, did you even have a relationship? Maybe also brings up other things to realize that I subjected myself in a situation that wasn't good for me and I need to remove myself. But at the end of the day, you want to be at peace, you want to be happy, you want to be joyful, and such antagonistic relationships or topics can take that away from you. So be intentional. Again, you can check out my website, www.forerunnercounseling. I work with couples. I've seen couples dealing with vaccines and dealing with politics. I work with individuals if you're processing loss, if you're processing emotional turmoil, trauma, grief. Please visit me on www.forerunnercounseling.com. And I have in person, and I also do have virtual availability. So thank you so much for watching, and please share this video with people you may know that can benefit from it. And also, if you want to get more information, keep on subscribing and click the notification so that you get notified when I upload a video. Thank you so much for watching.